Hi everyone, my name is Angie Pineda, and today I'm going to be covering the game element analysis that I did for Plants vs. Zombies. So in this presentation, what I'm going to be going over is just some background on the game that I played. I'm going to cover the formal and informal elements that I had identified, and my recommendation to improve the gameplay experience. So just to give some background on the game, so I played Plants vs. Zombies. So this is an older game. Of course, there are newer versions of this game, but I am going to go over the original game, which was released back in May 5th of 2009. And so this is a mobile device game, so iPhone, Androids, but it's also a system game. So a system is Xbox, PlayStation. So this game is available on other devices as well. And what I want to highlight also is that this game created a new genre, which is called tower defense. And tower defense is described as a strategy game where a single player is defending a location or some kind of goods from the opposition, so that is by building structures to stop the opponent from moving. And that should give you the gist of what this game is going to be about as I go into more detail about the game. So for my classmates, you can you can launch this game in the App Store, so for iPhones, or you can also find it in Google Play for Androids. So I know I dropped in the links here. You can copy it, so I will also put them below in the description of the YouTube video, so you can click on them. So I'm going to start getting into the formal elements. So for formal elements, I want to cover players. So in this game, it is heavy on the single player versus game system. So that means the player is playing against the system. So there is no dependency on another user or another human player on the other end. So really the user can play this game at any point. There is no dependencies. And so in this case, the game system is the zombies that you're going to be fighting against, or building to fight against them. But there are opportunities for playing against other players in other systems. So for example, the Xbox and PlayStation, they do make it available where you can play multiplayer, meaning you can play against other users, but it is dependent on having Wi-Fi or internet. And also, the other thing, the difference between mobile and systems is that on the systems, meaning Xbox or PlayStation, there is a co-op mode. And so co-op is when you can play together with someone else, not against them, but with them. The next formal element that I want to cover is objectives. And so in this, the objective is meant to give players something to work towards and accomplish within the rules of the games. And so the objective in this game is construction. And so construction is described as either building, maintaining, or managing objects. And so in this case, the objects are going to be the plants, the fungi, so the core gameplay in this element is to save your resources and buy all those different things. Buy the plants, buy the fungi to build up your defense. So an example of the object in this game is a walnut. Walnut. And so walnuts are used in defense to stop zombies or slow them down. And so this is just an example. Next I'm going to be covering is rules. So rules are intended to close loopholes in systems. And so in Plants vs. Zombies, I saw rules are used to restrict actions. So in this case, or in this game, what the game is restricting is restricting the player to advance or to skip levels. So the player can't go from level 1 jumping all the way to level 50. It does enforce the player to go through each level in order to advance. So the user has to successfully complete the rounds in order to advance each level. So again, this closes loopholes and it doesn't allow the player to just jump ahead, and it makes them go through each level. Next I'm going to cover is resources. So resources is in this game, and that is going to be seen in the form of suns, which are given by the sunflowers. So you'll see in the example on the right side, there's a bunch of sunflowers. So each of these sunflowers will be dropping suns, and the suns are dropped, and then the player needs to pick them up. And with these suns, as they collect the suns, then they can buy plants, fungi, or they can upgrade their plants to make them even stronger. And so this is an important piece of the game, because if you don't collect your suns or properly manage your suns, then you can't fight off the zombies. So those were the formal elements. Of course, those are just a few that I've highlighted. There are others out there, but those I thought were the most important ones to cover. And next, we're going to cover dramatic elements. So in dramatic elements, I saw challenging activities. In this game, in Plants vs. Zombie, it introduces new zombies at every few levels. And of course, these zombies are not easy to fight off. They will always introduce new powers, new level of difficulties. But the nice thing about this game is that it does start off slow, meaning what happens in the beginning of the game is that it introduces the player with one of those challenging zombies. And so it gives the player a chance to understand, okay, what do I need to do to attack or kill the zombie? So it gives them one to kind of get a feel for what the zombie is like. As the player starts getting familiar with the zombie, when it's getting thrown here and there, then at the very end, it releases, at the end of the round, as the time is ending, then it releases a large horde of those new zombies, not only those new zombies, but all the other zombies from the previous round. So it slowly starts escalating, and with dramatic elements, we talk about flow. And so in this flow, it slowly starts escalating and making the game more challenging. And so that is something that I noticed within this game. And next we're going to cover is characters, and I'm going to just briefly cover this because there's a lot of characters, but these are the main characters in the game. So we have Crazy Dave, and Crazy Dave is the second most important player in this game, but he is still important. He is the narrator. He introduces these challenges and upgrades to the plants, but he really brings in the importance of why we need to attack these zombies. And the reason why I say he's the second most important is because the protagonist in this game is the player himself. So, for example, me, if I was playing the game, I would be the protagonist because I am the one who is going to be fighting off these zombies and protecting the house and protecting Dave from the zombies. The next character in this game is Dr. Edgar George. So Dr. Edgar George, his name is Zomboss, but you don't see him too often, but he is the antagonist in this game, and he is the villain. He is the one who is leading these hordes of zombies. So you don't see him too often, but you do know that he is the main reason why we have the zombies. And then the last character, or characters that I want to highlight is zombies and the plants. So the zombies and the plants don't really speak. You can't really interact with them. But the nice thing, what I enjoyed about this game is that they introduce each of these zombies and plants They give them very special names, and they also introduce some background. So there is an index that that gives us information. And what I like is they kind of provide like not a story to each of these, but they kind of give some characteristics to these zombies that make them very unique, and in a way make them feel like they are unique and they are their own. I don't want to say person, but they're their own thing. And in a way, it makes you sympathize with the zombies, not the zombies, sorry, the plants. And so that is what I like most about this game, is how they make each of these characters unique. Yeah. And then lastly, my recommendation. So my recommendation, my recommendation for this game, and just to explain what is current, but my recommendation is to improve the conflict in this game. So of course the conflict is fighting against these zombies, and fighting against those different challenges that you have to deal with in the game. But what I would like to see improve in this game is the ability to play against other players. So in this current state, for mobile devices specifically, is that the user can only play against the system. So this is player versus game system. So that is the current state. But my recommendation would be to enable mobile players to play against other players, so allowing for player versus player. Why? The reason I believe this should be an improvement is because it gives the player a chance to create, it creates greater conflicts and challenges. So it's not only the challenge within the game and fighting off those difficult zombies, but being able to play against another player, not knowing what their level of skill is it's entertaining, and it's really engaging for the learner. The user. So I think that this should be an improvement. So being able to allow mobile users to play against other players. Now, I did speak about this earlier in the player section, because this is available essentially in the system side, so Xbox and PlayStation. But they kind of went back from that, and they don't really allow it in the latest mobile games. And I think, again, that should be an improvement. So just to give an example of what I'm talking about, Pokemon. Pokemon is a mobile game, and Pokemon Go. And so with Pokemon, yes, you can play against the system, but it gives you the opportunity to find other players wherever and fight against them, and you really don't know the level of Pokemon they have, the level of skill they have, and so it's always a different challenge, and you don't know. So the mystery in not knowing is really the fascinating piece of this. So I would like to, again, improve the conflict. These are my references that I have covered, and yeah, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you guys.